In Part 1, we raised the question, did the Jews return to Jerusalem in 537 BC? This question is an important part of examining whether or not Jerusalem was destroyed in 607. Why? Because those who uphold the 607 BC date teach a 70-year period of desolation and exile that begins with the destruction of Jerusalem and ends when the Jews return to Jerusalem and restore sacrificial worship. In that view, to find out when Jerusalem was destroyed, we have to calculate backward 70 years from when the Jews returned. This is said to be around September or October 537 BC. And if we subtract 70 years, we come to September or October of 607 BC. The only documentation we have in regard to when the Jews return is what the Bible says. However, what does the Bible say about the matter? Let's turn to the book of Ezra and find out. Let's start by reading Ezra 1, 1 through 3. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to accomplish the word of Yahweh by the mouth of Jeremiah, Yahweh stirred the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, and he sent a message to all his kingdom, and also put the message in writing. Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, Yahweh, the God of the heavens, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he himself has appointed me to build a house for him in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Whoever among you who is from all his people, may his God be with him, and may he go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and may he build the house of Yahweh, the God of Israel. He is the God who is in Jerusalem. Cyrus the Great, king of Persia, made a proclamation freeing the Jews from Babylonian exile, allowing them to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple. What year did this proclamation take place? In verse 1 we find that it occurred in the first regnal year of Cyrus, which began around March or April of 538 BC. Thus far, both the supporters of 607 and those who support the conventional chronology would agree. 538 BC is when Cyrus issued his proclamation. But when did the Jews actually return to Jerusalem? Ezra chapter 3 verse 1 says, Now the 7th month drew near, and the Israelites were in the cities. So the people gathered as one in Jerusalem. The 7th month was called Tishri, which is around the September-October time frame. But September or October of what year? A little homework for you. Read Ezra 1:1 to chapter 3 verse 7. The only year mentioned here in this passage is the first year of Cyrus, which is 538 BC. No other year is referred to. Thus, the most straightforward reading would lead one to believe that the Jews returned to Jerusalem in the 7th month of 538 BC, the first year of Cyrus, and not 537 BC, which would be the second year of Cyrus. But let's be a little generous. Let's say that Ezra was not very clear in chapter 3 about the year, but that would be as much as we could say. If he left the year vague or indefinite, we could say it happened in 537 BC with as much assurance as we could say 538 or 536 or any other year around this time frame. We really couldn't be dogmatic about the issue. In fact, if you carefully read the arguments of those who argue for the 537 BC date as well as 607, you will find words such as evidently, likely, probable, if. But there is no tangible proof absolutely linking the return to 537 BC. It is therefore at best conjecture. And if 537 is conjecture, then all the dates that are built upon it, including 607 BC, would also be conjecture. However, there are more important questions to consider. Was the return of the exiles even the end point of the 70 years? What were the 70 years all about? For the answers to these questions, we must go back to the prophet Jeremiah and see what he had to say on the matter.